I think that all niches are cringe if you go deep enough.
Welcome to Taste. I'm your host, Kelly Kim. Every week, I give you a taste of the on-chain future via yummy conversations with seriously on-chain builders. In this conversation, we chat with Richie from Forage, the front page of on-chain culture. Forage is an app that lets you discover launches and on-chain media from the likes of Zora, Farcaster, Mirror, and more. We chow down on topics like what on-chain social really means, the importance of having portable data, whether crypto is cringe or not, scenecoins, and the ephemeral nature of on-chain apps. Plus, Richie shares his experimentation with different diets and whether it is better to be an optimist or a pessimist in our industry. Hope you enjoy. Hello, we have Richie from Forage today. I'm really excited to dig into some delicious information and banter with someone who's building something really cool known as the front page of on-chain culture. So yeah, Richie, I am so happy you're here today. Would you mind providing us with a delicious elevator pitch of just who you are and who people think you are as well?
Hi, yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for asking me on the show. I've been in crypto for the last 5 years. I focus mostly on consumer facing stuff. I'm really interested in on-chain social, just in general, and how that works or how that could work, and sort of being out in front of it and looking at what's being made and determining how this could shake out. I'm really interested in that process. I have a design background, and so yeah, I'm really glad that now we're able to do crypto stuff, but that people can actually touch and feel, and the tools are really there, and I feel really excited about everything that's we're right on the cusp of things really coming together.
Were you always in crypto, or what were you doing before as a designer? What kind of projects or brands were you working with or for?
I went to design school, dropped out of that school to work on my first company. We were basically building the functionality that you have in the trips tab of the Airbnb app, but before Airbnb had created it. And so we did that for a few years, and then I went and did more design consulting, and that was when I got into blockchain. And so yeah, I was a design associate at Techstars' first blockchain batch. Then I worked with NFT gaming projects. I consulted for some bigger companies that were trying to figure out if blockchain could work with their business. And then I started this company, which has gone through a few iterations. We started with a product called Clarity, which was a DAO tool, or a tool for decentralized teams. It's like a workspace for decentralized teams. We were the first project to implement sign-in with Ethereum and use ENS as your username. And then we moved on to another project called Quests, which was more focused on independent workers and contributors. And that has led us to Forage, which is a front page of on-chain culture, because we noticed that people were using their Quest pages to announce things that they were doing and really show them off and build an audience. And around that time, Zora protocol rewards and other things came out, and we started to hack together some stuff. And so Forage was born out of that, and allowing people to get awareness on chain for what they're doing, and also create a referral system to reward people for spreading their message further and build an on-chain audience. So that's how we got to Forage, the front page of on-chain culture.
I like it. I like the name as well. The name makes me feel like I really am exploring a forest of things that have been minted on chain and just waiting for people to pick them up or I guess collect them. It's a really cute name. How exactly does it work though? Because yeah, I feel especially you just enter the space, or I hate saying the space, but anyways, you just enter this world, you discover Forage. How am I going to get on the front page of on-chain culture?
Yeah, I'm glad you called out the name. The fact that it reminds you of a forest is really great, because that was pulling inspiration from the original dark forest theory of the internet, and then Ethereum is a dark forest, and it's really about sifting through all of that. The way that Forage works is we have contributors both on our team and community contributors and builders themselves who submit announcements and things that they're working on to Forage, and we highlight them on our front page with a mint. And that allows people to become a part of the journey of that project, collect that milestone, and also helps to then spread the announcement further on chain. So we also have like a partnership with Coinbase where we're part of their on-chain content network. So they actually push mints to us from the on-chain registry as well. So when you submit to the on-chain registry and it gets featured, it automatically shows up on our front page. And so we're building out these various ways that things can show up on our site. Another way is, if something pops off on Farcaster, we automatically will detect it and curate it onto our site. Same thing with Zora. We're actually both a Zora and a Farcaster client. We use like the social graph and identity from Farcaster. We use the smart contracts and protocol to publish on chain from Zora, and obviously the protocol rewards there. So we're really trying to build by example of like what you can build in on-chain social when you start combining and layering together these various primitives and protocols to create something that's really rich and honestly way more than what we could build just by ourselves.
Yeah. I think people don't actually realize how cool it is that we can build these things so, wouldn't say easily because, you still have to know like how things work and where to like kind of connect the dots. But like this kind of thing is not really possible with like off-chain social because of all the silos and it's just impossible. Whereas like where we are, like everyone just wants to help each other. Like everyone wants their data to go, where they want it to go as far and like wide as possible. So that's super, super, super cool. I guess like maybe I'll dig a little bit more into like how you think about on-chain social, because I know that you're quite vocal about this. There's like I think you posted like a visual essay on-chain social is equal not equal to on-chain social. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I was more or less just like coming in on, a lot of people talk about like, I think they quibble about like terminology. It's like, oh, on-chain social, like Farcaster's not really on-chain technically. Like, yeah, the identity's on-chain, but the casts aren't on-chain. Like, I think it's like pedantic, and like the reality is like on-chain is a vibe and a philosophy of like having portable data, portable identity, etc. And so really like the essay was really just saying like on-chain social doesn't have to be on-chain 100%. It just has to allow for portable data, portable media, portable identity, however, by any means necessary. I really don't care, like technically, if it's all on chain. When I go to an on-chain social app, I'm expecting them to treat me like the good host of a party. I want them to know my name. I want them to point me towards my friends and show me something that I know, that they know I will love. And that's it. And so when I join a new on-chain social app or an app that claims to be on-chain social, if I'm starting at a cold start, I just immediately assume this is like not a serious project. They're just like using on-chain social as a way to just get people to try their thing, like in name only. I really want to see like my ENS populate at minimum, my Farcaster name, whichever, and then use my data somehow, like populate my profile, have my friends show up automatically. So like I onboarded onto Rodeo, for example, and it was awesome. Like literally signed in and immediately was seeing a feed with things being minted and posted by my Farcaster friends. It's like, I actually was so quick that I had to ask them if it was doing those things, because I was like, oh, wow, this feed seems relevant to me. Are you doing X, Y, and Z? They're like, yeah, that's exactly. And I'm like, this is awesome. Like, it was so seamless. Whereas, if you join Instagram off of like a cold profile, it could take you a week at least before you start feeling like, oh, this is something that feels like it's for me. And that's probably being optimistic. It's probably take much longer than that.
I love that, the concept of like, now there really is such a thing as like your digital identity. And I feel like, I don't know what you think about this, but people will interact like online or on chain in a much more meaningful way, like in a way that, they want to kind of build up their identity and kind of, I don't know, be more careful about what they mint or collect or say. And it's just, I don't know, like I guess it makes people a lot, I don't know, like the whole term slow living. I think this whole idea of like creating an identity leads to like slow browsing, where you really like look at the internet as a different place to like grow or like build up yourself. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it mirrors what we originally saw with like online social in general, where at first it was like, like be careful what you put on your Facebook, be careful what you put on your MySpace. Like it was like a curated page, you'd spend all day sort of curating your MySpace. That was in a way like a slow social experience. Like I changed my MySpace theme all the time. It was almost like a mood ring. Like I wanted it to be different, like, like weekly. I mean, that's probably why I was so interested in like web design and stuff, but that's unimaginable to me now. Maybe because I'm older also, but also just because things move so quickly that it would be impossible to like feel like this represents me. I think the same thing happens here where like also because things are expensive, there's like this slow browsing or slow social that you're talking about, slow living on the internet. But I think that as we make things faster, cheaper, there's more content on chain, there's new people coming in who don't really think of it as this like thing, it will become more and more fast and casual, just like TikTok is the fast casual version, or Twitter is the fast casual version of MySpace, Facebook, right? Like people don't think so hard before they tweet or post TikTok anymore. So yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like we are accelerating at like such a high pace. I do like struggle to keep up with everything, and I'm curious, in addition to Forage, what is your digital diet or like on-chain diet? Like where do you go to get the newest thing to kind of mint or collect or like catch up with the latest consumer like news?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of why we made Forage, is like we didn't really have a good option. And so I spent a lot of time curating stuff for Forage, and our team does. And so often like before it hits Forage, it's like in our Slack. And so like I go to Slack often to do that, and then it, ends up on Forage. And besides that, it's like a lot of like Twitter and Warpcast. There's obviously like also newsletters I follow and stuff like that, but it can be hit or miss. I do really like Maria Paula's Touch Grass newsletter. I found some like really cool art projects and just like different things that are happening across the ecosystem that I wouldn't have seen otherwise. She's really good at like finding that stuff and curating.
Yeah, like curators have, like I respect them so much because, I mean, this podcast is called Taste, and I really do feel like Taste is not something you can just like download. You really have to like spend time clicking around, reading, like interacting, being part of communities to kind of like acquire and build up. And curators like yourself, like Maria from Touchgrass, amazing. So jealous of how you kind of like build up this palette. I am still working on it. I feel like my diet could be a little more balanced, but we'll get there. Speaking of diet, what did you eat today? Random question.
What did I eat today? I feel like this is a leading question. I have only eaten steak today, pretty much. Steak and eggs.
Okay. Steak and eggs. Okay. What time is it there for you?
Yeah, it's 1:30.
Okay. And is that your like regular? Actually,
as of late, I've pretty much been eating just meat, or like basically beef, lamb, and dairy. I'm doing like an elimination diet where I'm doing a blood test every 3 or so months to find out what my optimal diet is. And that process starts with just eating ruminant meat, which is meat that has like the animals that have multiple stomachs, because it helps with like nutrient and vitamin and digestion and absorption into the meat. And so yeah, right now I'm just eating meat and dairy for a few months, and then we're going to see how that checks out in my blood and then adjust from there. And I don't really care where I end up. I just care that it's optimal for my body and my blood.
Wild. Do you miss green stuff?
No. I mean, I do like vegetables. Like, I'm not a person who doesn't like vegetables. Like, I've tried veganism out before. Like, that was fine. I'm not like a anti-vegetable person, but I don't really crave it. And I think that's part of the carnivore diet, is that you don't crave anything. Like, I don't crave sugar. I don't crave carbs. I don't crave even fruit. Like, we do eat some berries because that helps with like fiber and whatnot, but it's like blackberries and blueberries only. And like, that's the sweetest thing I eat, but it's not like, I don't crave it when I'm not eating it. It's very strange to like, and I also have like very consistent energy levels. So there's none of this like up and down of my energy levels throughout the day. I feel pretty much the same all day. Like, I'm someone who like struggled with like 3 p.m. energy crashes for a long time before this. So that's been really, really nice. And so, yeah, I don't really crave anything and I don't really miss much, to be honest. Like, yeah, eating out at a restaurant is pretty difficult, but like at the end of the day, most places have a steak or something like that you can eat. So it's not a huge deal.
Holy shit. Do you still drink coffee?
Yeah. So coffee, tea, water, sparkling water, but no sugar, no refined starches. Like I can eat dairy, but I don't eat ice cream because of the sugar. So it's like no sugar, also no alcohol, which I really don't drink alcohol anyway. So it's like not a big deal.
Alcohol's not cool anymore. I don't know if anyone can do that.
Yeah.
How long are you doing this for again?
Like at least 3 months. So I'll test my blood in 3 months and then we'll see what the deal is. And then I'll decide based on those results what adjustments to make, if any.
That's freaking wild. Like really, it's wild. Do you hunt?
I do not hunt. Given the proper environment, like I would prefer to hunt my own meat so that it was like ethical and it was done, you know, and I think also there's like in an ideal world, I'd have that connection to like the animal that I am consuming. And I think that's like a responsible relationship. I live in Brooklyn. That's not really a possibility, but I do have like dreams of eventually having that kind of relationship to my food in the long term. I think that would be really special and appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah, there are different types of animals in Brooklyn from what I've heard. Love it. Okay, very, very cool. Perfect candidate for this podcast called Taste. What's your favorite cut of steak? Another random question there.
I mean, a ribeye is great. I'm trying them all right now, so we'll see.
Yeah. You should go to Argentina. Just saying. I think I've told you this before, but Paraguay, Argentina, the meat, like, it's like a heaven for carnivores. Like, most of my Argentinian friends only eat meat. It's quite insane. Yeah. I'm like, good luck in the toilet, bro. But sweet. All right, let's swing back to, like, our industry. I want to ask you, do you think Web3 is cringe?
I think that all niches are cringe if you go deep enough. Like everybody gets so far from, you know, there's a midwit in every corner, you know, and like the midwit is the cringe person. And, you know, but I think that crypto has a funny thing to it, which is that it is both very unserious and also the most serious thing in the world. You know, like if you hear what crypto people talk about, like it's like, okay, we're changing the way that value flows. We're going to revamp the world economy. We're going to like create organizations that, you know, are decentralized and control major public goods and infrastructure. Like these are real serious things. And it like follows that the technology would enable that. And there are many people in this space who are earnest about that, which I think is really, really awesome. Like, you know, those are some of my favorite people to talk to. So we have a very serious aspect to crypto. And then you also have the very unserious part of crypto, and they're right next to each other. You know, like they're all on crypto Twitter, or they're, you know, and most of the time people who come into this space encounter the unserious first, and maybe that's their only experience. And so there is like a cringe to that dichotomy, which is, you know, we are both like we both need to be trusted with some of the most serious things in the world, and also dog with hat. You know?
Also, crypto dick parts. Like, also, Vitalik
and like
wearing
these are fun things. Like I like that they exist, and I like that they're in the space because these are new primitives for doing all kinds of weird stuff, and we should experiment with all that stuff. And it's all about attention, and in a way, it's a more honest reflection of us than has ever been. That's so cool. Like I love that, right? I don't want the unserious part to go away. In fact, the serious people need the unserious people in order for them to be the serious ones. You know, like
Right.
you can't, if you just have like a community of only serious people, like it's too much. And if you have a community of only unserious people, like that's also too much. And so they need each other, and that's great. And I love to oscillate between those, and it leads to some pretty cringy things in general sometimes.
We love the cringe. It's like how like non-crypto people, like LinkedIn is like where they make all their connections and like find their next, I don't know, 10x engineer. And like in crypto, it's kind of like you have to like really like look at someone with like a meme, the most memeing PFP, and be like, oh, I want to know who you are. Let's chat. It's crazy. And I feel like if I took my friends, you know, who are not involved at all, who don't know anything about what I do, to like a crypto conference, and I was like, hey, look, that guy there, one of the smartest people I know, they'd just look at me like, come on, like you cannot be serious. He's wearing, I don't know, a shirt with a Pepe. Like, come on, like, how are you gonna tell me this guy is gonna change the world? Similarly, there's always like memes of Vitalik, and they're like, are we trusting this guy to like change the future of money? It's insane. It is quite fittingly cringe.
Yeah, but if you hear him talk, he's obviously brilliant and also low ego, which is really special.
But you've heard him talk in real life, right? Recently at Basecamp.
Yeah, it's really insightful.
Awesome guy. Not that I know him. I will though. I'll know him one day. On the topic of cringe, let's glaze past meme coins and move on to kind of like something more familiar to you and I, which are scene coins. For anyone who is listening and who's like, what is a scene coin? It's like a more respectable version of a meme coin. It's like a coin that defines culture in a way. What's your favorite scene coin and why?
It's always funny, like trying to define these things, like because they're all the same, right? At the end of the day, but so they do have a different texture and different intention that are imbued into them, and that's what makes the difference. Yeah, so I mean, my favorite scene coin right now is Higher. They've been around for a minute, and I just love the aesthetic. I love the fact that they have higher athletics. I can see it covering a lot of different stuff, like into the future, and it's a brand I feel like that can extend, and I think the people at the core are earnest and are really, you know, engaged, and I think that's really cool. So I'm not like super involved with it at all. Like I'm really not involved with it besides holding the token, but I do appreciate it a lot, and I like the stuff that they're doing.
Okay, let's talk about building. You've been building for a long time. How does one become a good builder, or perhaps how does one kind of create a team of good builders, quote unquote good?
Yeah, I mean, this question, there's a lot of different ways that you can answer this question. When I think about being a good builder, it's in this space, at least, it's not just about like building something good, but also the way that you're contributing to the overall like scene or space. And so I think one thing is really cool is just like to look around and see what other people are doing, what other questions people are asking, and be really thoughtful about what you put out there, what conversations you start, what conversations you contribute to, and then really see like what people are not saying and then or not creating, and to create something that's authentic to you that fits into that spot. Because if you're seeing that spot, you know, I think it's common that we underappreciate our perspective. And so if you're seeing that gap, it's possible that you're, you know, one of, or maybe the only person or one of a few people who are going to perceive that gap. And so, you know, fill it, like create something. So I think that that's what it means to be like a good builder in the space to me.
I like it. What about like specific maybe lessons or tips for people trying to build for consumers? I think consumers, like building for consumer has a really, like everyone has a different definition of what it means to build for a consumer. Like some people are more like, hey, just build for like whoever is already using the tech and then, you know, expand from there. Whereas others are kind of like, no, like consumer means anyone should be able to use, you know, anything you build.
Yeah, I think this is probably said a lot, but I think it's worth repeating because I don't think people really understand like how important it is. It's like it needs to be simpler. Like no matter how simple you've made it, it needs to be simpler. And especially like in these on-chain, communities, like what we consider simple is really not that simple. Like it's simple for us, but it's not simple for consumers, and it needs to be even simpler. And often that's frustrating because it comes with compromises on a bunch of different things. Like today, people are talking about chain abstraction on Twitter, and it's like that's going to make things simpler, but like, chains are different and they have different properties, and abstracting them away, is going to have some downsides. But if it makes it simpler for the consumer, that I don't have ETH on 5 different chains, that I need to like understand what that even means, the average person doesn't understand that or won't want to understand it, even if they're capable. And so, yeah, I think that's the first thing. It's just like, make it even simpler. No matter how simple you've made it, it probably needs to be simpler. And then there's this tension between like shipping fast and early and shipping something that can survive in a consumer space, because one thing that's unique about consumer, or maybe it's exasperated in consumer, is that people, once people try something, like they're unlikely to try it again. They didn't have a positive experience. And so you have to balance this thing of like, how do I get something out and really not let it simmer too often without getting feedback from the world, but also make sure that it's actually ready for prime time. And so releasing in concentric circles of like trusted people who are, let's say, like close to you, because they'll try it again and again, right? And then once you have success there, then going wider and wider is a good strategy I've seen work, because it's really, shipping something really early in MVP. If it's not a good experience and a bunch of people try it, like you may just have to like rename it, rebrand it, and start over, even if you're building something, similar, because it's already, sort of used up in people's minds.
Right, like the brand association there is like not wired correctly from the get-go.
Yeah, it's like I tried that, I didn't like it. Yeah. Even though it's changed, like the chance I'm going to try it again is really low. So if you have a bust consumer launch, you sort of have to start from square one again.
What do you think is like, as we onboard more people, I feel like the more like, I guess, like saturated or bloated our audience gets, I don't think we'll have that same sparkle to how people like interact and use the apps. Like when I like try a new on-chain app, I like know, right, like where this came from. This is like blood, sweat, and tears of like every single builder. What do you think is going to be the trend there? Are people just going to come in and like kind of just, I don't know, dilute the vibes or the culture, or do you think it's going to be like pretty well maintained?
I don't know. I think that the way I think about this is like there's going to be ecosystems. So you'll have like the Farcaster ecosystem, which sits inside of the Ethereum ecosystem, right? And as example, and then there's a Lens ecosystem. And when people onboard onto the Farcaster ecosystem, now it's really easy for them to try a bunch of Farcaster products. If I already have a Farcaster account, now every time I want to try something else that's in that same ecosystem, like it's really easy. Whereas in Web 2, like doesn't matter how many apps I try, the next one I'm still starting from zero. And so I think that once that clicks for people, they'll be more open to trying new things, but there will be more things to try. And so I think the marginal cost of trying a new thing goes way down, and the ability to get them to a magic moment goes up, which is great for builders. So it's like easier to build, easier to get somebody to a magic moment faster, but harder to retain them because there's nothing locking them in except attention. And so I think that that's going to change just how we build apps in general. Like some things will persist, but I think it's probably a surer strategy to design your thing to be an ephemeral experience, more like a party than an institution. Like you're throwing a party. People are coming in, they're going to try it out, the party starts. It's like you keep the party going as long as you can, and then when the party starts to degrade, you call it off, right? Because great parties end too early, and they, like no one likes to see a party that went too long. And so I think that the art is in knowing when your party is peaked and ending the party and giving people something that they want more of, and then playing this iterative game of like releasing something new to people who enjoyed the first thing. And because the assets are on chain and the social graph is on decentralized protocol, like you can bring those people from experience to experience. And so the way I'm thinking about all of this stuff is just that like it's not the same as like going to build an Instagram that's going to persist forever. And on-chain social is not even Warpcast versus Twitter. It's the entire Farcaster ecosystem versus each individual existing platform. So those platforms are all fighting on their own, and over time, like, we're adding more and more experiences and things to the Farcaster side of the scale, for example. And eventually that scale tips for different people, and they're like, okay, I'll try out this Farcaster thing. But then once they have that account, they're in. It's the same thing as like if you're an Android user, like getting an iPhone, huge lift, right? Like big time decision. But once you have one, it's like downloading another iOS app is not a big deal. And so I think it's the same thing that will happen there.
I like the way you're framing it, like it's an entire ecosystem versus like old ways of interacting, like social online. Awesome. Yeah, I like that. What are you doing with? Is Medicicam a party then? Is that your like?
Yes.
Kind of. What kind of party is this, and how do you expect people to dance or have fun here?
Great question. So yeah, Medicicam is an example of like a party. It's a experience that is not meant to be, sort of a bigger project. And so what it is it's a on-chain social meme generator. And our like sort of point that we're trying to make with it is twofold. One is that, on-chain culture is starting a new renaissance, and that renaissance is sort of what we're talking about. It's like the ability to create more things way easier, and have like a ton of new experiences that you can have online with your friends. That's a new renaissance. And it extends beyond that, right? Like we're rethinking, like we talked about earlier, very serious things like money and value and intellectual property and ownership and art. And these are serious concepts that we're reckoning with in on-chain culture. And so that renaissance is not just about like social apps, but it's also just about like how we're rethinking a lot of these fundamental concepts. And so we created this on-chain social meme generator, both to show sort of to explain this with this like renaissance theme, but also to show how easy it is to build something really interesting in a very short period of time. And so Medicicam allows you to show up to the app, pick a renaissance painting, the faces are cut out, you can click on a cutout, pick a Farcaster friend. If there's multiple cutouts, we'll show you people who are closest in the Farcaster network to that first face that you picked. And so you can easily pick like a group of people, put into a painting. We use like open rank to rank those. And then you can mint it on base via Zora, and people can mint it and you can get protocol rewards for that. And so you've got creation, minting, and tipping using Forage. You've got low cost mints on base, distribution and rewards via Zora, because it automatically will go into Zora's feed, and social search and sharing via Farcaster, because we automatically tag all of the Farcaster users that you used in the painting when you share it to Farcaster, and the smart suggestions via OpenRank. And we built that in a week. And so it's like that would be literally impossible to build in Web 2, not even like time consuming, but just like impossible. And we built that as like a mini game, like kind of a fun experiment that would just drive the point home of like, this is what you can build in this space. And also this Renaissance talking point of like, hey, like this is a Renaissance. This is fun. Like, check this out. This is what we're doing here. And so, yeah, it is a party in the sense that, we're putting it out there. People can go create their stuff. We probably won't keep it up forever, and, we'll move on to other things, or we'll iterate on it, right? If the party's good, we'll just keep iterating on it, keep it going, and then eventually decide when it's time. But yeah, so yeah, that's a great question. Great example of a party.
Yeah. I'm going to put in a request. Like, I loved it. Like, I love the concept, and, like, this is actually like what I had dreamed of doing for like the commemorative asset for the season anyways. But if you could put like a caption generator, and it like, if you type like, I don't know, give me that grape, maybe it will be like, hand me that grape, or like something along the lines of like what they would say back in the day. I feel like that would be is a shameless request from me live.
Yeah, we could even like incorporate the casts of the people tagged in the painting to create like a description. Like this starts to really, you can iterate on it so much, and there's so many fun things you can do. Yeah. Like I think that, even this barely taps the potential of like what you can do with on-chain social, and like, you know, there's so many ways you could extend it.
So fun. I'm seeing more of those right now. You know, like how you click on a frame, like waifu, was it like waifu
Yeah.
generator? Like those that kind of like iterate through your casts, learn who you are, how you talk, and then, yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, there was one I saw I did yesterday that was like roasts you. And
Oh,
it was
really?
like, it was pretty rough. I was like, damn, this, I was like, okay. It did not hold back. And I mean, like, I was just like, wow, brutal roast.
The good thing is you can't cancel a frame for roasting you, right?
Yeah,
It's like-
right.
It is what it is. The technology doesn't lie. So if that's who they think you are, you better take a good look at yourself. Okay, what do I have here? Okay, I think we can move on to explain yourself. I have to say, you're quite I feel like you're definitely not the midwit. You know, you're quite serious. You post like very well thought out, you know, content. I did pick 3 casts that I would like you to explain to us. Let me pull it
Sure.
up. All right. This one was a burn to Apple. What will Apple do to crypto? Like, what are they doing to AI right now?
Oh.
And how should we plan accordingly?
Yeah, this I think was in response to WWDC, and you know, they had released Apple Intelligence, and they were essentially like papering over the models that were underneath them. So like they integrate with ChatGPT, but you could easily see how they would over time edge out ChatGPT in the amount of things that like Apple Intelligence would take over. I also think that I was referring to just the way that they really made it fully integrated into the experience in a way that like destroyed a lot of third-party use cases. So there's a lot of like third-party AI apps that, you know, maybe have a healthy business, but now they're just a feature of iOS. And there's a lot of things I think that will fall under that umbrella if Apple really does end up making iOS a crypto native operating system. And they have built out the technology to do that. Like passkeys are crypto signing keys. Like you can do everything you want to do with a crypto wallet with like the wallet app. There's all like the passkeys, etc. Like they even have social recovery for your Apple ID, where you can share permission to like unlock your Apple ID with like multiple people. Like they have all the pieces to make a consumer friendly crypto operating system. So it's just a decision of when they want to do that. And I think they can do it, you know, in 6 months. They can implement a lot of stuff. Like you get one iOS version to the next, and they could be a completely different player when it comes to crypto. And I actually think that the biggest thing holding them back is probably brand risk. They have the most valuable brand in the world, and crypto is one of the worst brands in the world. But AI was also a pretty tough brand going into this. And like a lot of people really look negatively on AI, especially like generative AI art and stuff like that. There's lots of like obviously plagiarism, not giving credit to people's work, stealing art, like whether or not those things are true or valid, that's part of the narrative. So the fact that they even touched it at all shows that like when there's consumer demand, they will do it. And crypto is just a matter of building that consumer demand. And one day Apple will tip and they'll do the same thing they just did to AI, to crypto.
How are you planning accordingly? Like how do we stop this?
I don't know. I don't think we do stop it. I think that it, you know, it's just part of the circle of life in tech, and you know, we'll see if they do it in time. But I think we're pretty far out, because I don't think really we're anywhere near where we need to be for them to care.
Right. Christopher Wallace says Apple Pay is just an L2 away. Okay, Chris.
I mean,
Wow.
not wrong.
I love this one. Okay. What? All right, let's go.
This one This one is very low thought. It's just funny. The I don't really have a grand sort of explanation for this other than that I love this meme template, and I was talking to a friend of mine and at Fest, and I was like, "Oh yeah, have you ever seen this meme template?" He was like, "No," and I was like, "Yes." Some people like you'll do like an example where it's like Americans, capitalism, Europeans, and then he was like, "Wait, is that like a real one, or did you just come up with that example?" I was like, "Oh, I just came up with it as an." He was like, "You should make that one and post it on Rodeo." So we did it. I don't really have any strong opinions about it other than I do think it's really funny. But yeah.
Interesting. You want to talk about capitalism? It's okay to not have a strong opinion, but we can banter, throw some jokes around. I hope I won't get cancelled for this. Nah, probably not. Come on, like we're all kind of capitalists, right? Or like closet capitalists. I don't know. Okay, so you called this a... Oh, that's actually the canned text, right?
Yeah.
Masterpiece on... Is it Medicicam or Medicicam? I feel very uncultured now.
I think I pronounce it Medicicam, but I don't know. It could be... It's however that family pronounces their name.
Medici.
Yeah, Medici. Probably is Medici.
Why did you put Dan Romero and Varun in here?
I just thought it looked like two partners, and I thought that was funny. But apparently I got it wrong. Apparently Varun should have been wearing the furs, as the comment section let me know.
Why is that? Oh, right. Hold on.
I don't know them personally, so I can't speak to it, but apparently that was the obvious.
Okay, well, let me give it a like. And I'll say, why is that? Okay, we'll see what he says. Varun with the fur. Makes sense. I do want to end on kind of maybe like an optimistic note. I want to ask, would you consider yourself like an optimist or a pessimist or something in the middle?
Optimist. I mean, like that's actually why I like the PFP that I have. The collection is called Optimists. That's just my general orientation. I think you have to cultivate either being an optimist or a critic. Like it takes effort to be either one and cultivate an optimistic view. I think that often there's too much pessimism, too many people who want to just be critical of stuff. I think that the optimistic view is scarce, and it is also often correct in the long run. And a lot of folks, I think people are generally good and they have good intentions. Doesn't mean that their outcome of their actions is always good. Like people have blind spots and shadows that corrupt their actions. But I think if you're optimistic, you're better off more than you're not.
Nice, I like that. Do you have a word for pessimists? Other than like, you're probably wrong, which, I'm on board with. I feel like the more optimistic you are, like, the more you're likely to achieve whatever you set out to build or, like, achieve, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you self-identify as a pessimist, then like maybe there's something you need to look inward on. But also, I don't think people intend to be pessimistic, but are. And I think that often, and I fall into this trap as well. If I find myself like saying like, and then I have to like challenge myself to really look at it more optimistically or look at things more optimistic or take the compassionate view of something like, oh, this sucks. It's like, wait, but like, what would the compassionate view look like? It's like, oh, it would look like this. Okay, well, actually, that feels better. Let's go with that. That kind of exercise. So yeah, I think it's just easy to be cynical and difficult to challenge yourself to like really think about like, what would it look like in a positive way, or what would it look like if it went well? And I think that thought exercise is at least worth it.
Love it. So final word for pessimists is look in the mirror, be your best friend, be the mentor with unconditional support that you never had. Love it. Richie, this was really, really fun. Where can people find you, support you, or as you like to say, join the party?
My Twitter is at Richie Bonilla. My Farcaster is at Richie. I pretty much post everything on both of those places. Sometimes more on Farcaster than on Twitter. And Farcaster eats first, so that's probably the better place.
Awesome. Well, I'll see you around. I can't wait to see what you guys cook next, and stay tuned for the ultimate Medicicam creation for season 1 of Taste. Thanks,
Sounds
Richie.
good. Thanks, Kelly. Appreciate you having me on.